So sorry for being gone for like literally like 2 weeks. But in my defense, I had a moment, a really strong moment that got me into the hospital. And not for anything physical either. It's like an actual mental asylum. No joke. I was actually in a mental institute, mental hospital, whatever the fuck you want to call it, for 9 days. So yeah, sorry I haven't been able to like talk, but literally, so you guys are like completely clueless, like you don't know what the fuck is going on. So like I'm gonna do a quick refresh of what I've been through. So we all know my mom died. Depressing as fuck. Like really, really not great, you know? Like who the fuck wants their mom to die at 17 years old, let alone ever? Yeah, not me, but it happened. It's about 2.5 weeks later, and still not great. But I've accepted that she's gone, and I still very much love her. Like, don't have any resentment towards her. Like, I've come to accept it. I'm still grieving. I'm still, like, very much grieving. I'm still very sad that I'm missing my mom. But I've come to accept that, like, there's nothing that I could have done. Like, there's no reason for me to feel any guilt. It really is horrible that she's gone, especially at such an early age for me, and at such a pivotal moment of both of our lives. But I can't change the past, so we're just gonna let it go, okay? Let it go, just a little bit, like, just okay, like, I'm chill, okay? But, like, my mom was kind of the reason why I was put into the hospital, but kind of not. So, as we well know, like, I've been high-key, or was, am about to high-key be stressing out over the funeral, and, like, the burial, and the ashes, and the plans, and everything. Like, I was high-key stressing about that, and then on top of that, like, my dad and uncle still don't get along, so I was kind of stressing about that, and then I was still grieving. Not to mention, like, I'm sure grieving is hard for anybody, but along with that, like, I have to deal with PTSD, depression, anxiety. Like, needless to say, I was a little bit unstable. I mean, I'm always a little bit unstable, but, like, after my mom was gone, like, I was, like, high. The most unstable I've ever been in my life. And believe me, I've been in a lot of unstable situations in my life. So, to, like, be this mentally unhinged is, like, a huge deal. But again, my mom dying and having to deal with her fucked up family, our fucked up family, is a lot, okay? It's a lot. For a 17-year-old kid, it's a lot. Like, I was not ready. I wasn't expecting it. I was not ready to handle all of that shit. Okay? I could not take it. And then, just when I'm, like, barely keeping it together, my uncle gets vertigo. Like, vertigo as in, like, I think he had, like, an ear infection, or still has an ear infection. And basically, like, he suffered from, like, intense dizziness, intense nausea. Like, he couldn't even move without, like, gagging or throwing up, or, like, getting, like, huge headaches. Like, it's, like, to him, like, he said that, like, the world was spinning constantly, and he was, like, very unstable, like, physically, and, like, he couldn't do anything. And so, like, I was, like, literally, like, dealing with my dad and uncle fighting, which, again, low-key stressor, not a big one. And then school, which is low-key not a big stressor. But then mom's death, funeral, fucked up family, like, talking to my aunt all the time. And then now we've got my uncle who's sick, and I have to bed rest him. Like, I was like I was not doing great. Needless to say, like, your girl was not doing great, okay? And then I have like two, kind of three big triggers. Technically four. First one, going to places that like remind me, or being in situations that remind me of trauma that I've been through. So like, I can't go back to the old town that I used to live in because I cannot stand that town because of how much trauma I went through there. I really don't like Virginia because of the trauma that I went through there, and I literally despise my dad's house because of the trauma that I went through there. So like, needless to say, like, they're triggers. I've been in my dad's house enough that like, and it's changed over the years enough that like I can tolerate it, but I still literally hate his house. I cannot stand his house. Like, just like, literally, if I could literally have like a wrecking ball or something, oh my god, that reminds me of Miley Cyrus or Hannah Montana, or like, oh my god, that was a whirlwind. But like, anyways, back to topic. Anyways, so like, I just want to destroy his house because like I freaking hate his house so much. Like, the horrible, freaking hate his house. But like, whatever. Slowly getting past it, but I don't think I'll ever end up actually liking his house. Ever. Never, ever. There are so many reasons that I don't like his house. Number one being, my first memory as a kid was of my parents fighting and of my dad laying his hands on my mom, and that was literally in that house. Then my second worst memory was my aunt and my mom literally fighting and getting each other like scratches and bloodying each other up. And then like, another memory that I have is walking in on my half brother, who later on in the future, when I was like 9 or 10 years old, raped me, having sex with my aunt. So yeah, not great. And then, needless to mention, my half brother raped me in that house. So yeah, don't exactly like the house, okay? Don't exactly like the house. Then we've got my old town, which we all know the story. Like, went there for 3 years, 3.5, 4 years with my mom. She went through an intense breakdown, and I had to push through and survive through it all. And I also had to deal with the bullying at school and the inconsistent care and the ignorance and the like, just foolhardy, like, just conservative town that we lived in. And like, sometimes like I'll be put in like weird deja vu situations where like they like instantly remind me. Sometimes it's even deja vu like with a person, like they'll instantly remind me of somebody that used to hurt me, and it freaks me the fuck out. Like, I cannot take it. And then another trigger for me is loud noises and like bright lights, and like, I'm semi-claustrophobic. And I also have like agoraphobia, which is like fear of crowds. So like, all of those things do not work well for me. They're also a huge trigger for me. And then my two biggest triggers, which one of them is like freaking obvious, but like being put in like a very dangerous situation, or like having somebody like abuse or bully me, like, or confrontation in general, like I really don't like it just brings back like horrible memories, and like I cannot stand confrontation. I will confront someone if they're like, if I need to like get my opinion across, or like tell them like straight up like you're doing something wrong, or like I'm standing up for somebody else, or like if you're arguing with somebody, like you need to express like what you like, your standpoint on the situation or person or whatever. But like after that, done. Like I'm not the type of person who will like argue or confront somebody continuously and fight with them over and over and over over the same thing, because I had to deal with that. Like, I don't want to do that to other people. Like, that's pointless. It's ridiculous. So needless to say, I just like hate arguing and confrontation and violence and all that stuff. And well, I guess I hate it more than the average person because it legitimately triggers me. And I also don't like people touching me, like, when I don't really know them that well, or, like, when I'm not aware. Like, I hate, like, some people love to give, like, at school, I had, like, a friend who was, like, really touchy-feely like me, which at first I thought was great, but she would, like, literally hug me with, like, no warning whatsoever. And, like, sometimes when I was sitting down in class, like, she would go up behind me and hug me, which is, like, no. Like, fuck no. Like, get off me. Like, no. Like, I can't. Like, you just, I can't. I literally cannot. So, just don't do any of those things and you'll be chill. But the second biggest trigger for me, 100%, is, again, like, kind of the deja vu situation thing, but, like, it's phrases or, like, words that are similar to either what I used to say to my abusers or what my abusers used to say to me. So, and those are, like, probably the worst triggers because, well, actually they're number one trigger for me because, like, I can't. Because, like, it's harder for me to deal with, like the verbal, like, way, like, the verbal trigger than, like, the physical trigger. Like, let's say, like, I went through a situation that was, like, almost parallel or identical to, like, trauma that I've been through. Like, I would probably handle it better than hearing phrases because physically I like, I dissociate a lot, so, like, I feel like I would be able to dissociate out of the situation physically and, like, be able to survive the situation and, like, move forward from it, you know? But with verbal, it's like it takes you, like, back to that exact moment and, like, it's already in your head and your body's physically not in danger, so, like, I don't have, like, the urge to, like, dissociate. Well, that's not really true. Like, it's kind of like instead of dissociating and, like, getting, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, when I dissociate casually, it's like, sorry, my back hurts. I'm an old woman. Just kidding, I'm, like, 17. Okay, but, like, when I dissociate casually or when I dissociate regularly, like, by regular dissociation is, like, I kind of just phase out and, like, I'm not really aware of my surroundings and, like, get absent-minded and don't remember stuff and blah, 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 blah. Like, it's kind of like low-key blackouts, but they're not really blackouts because, like, I'm semi-aware, but, like, not really there. Whereas when I'm extremely triggered, especially by, like, verbal phrases, like, I literally cannot, like, function. And, like, either go into, like, severe, like, I go through, like, 3 different bad things. There's my survival mode, which is, like, I literally, like, cover my ears and close my eyes and, like, go into fetal position and, like, hide in a corner and, like, basically, like, don't respond to anything. Yeah, it's not great. And then, the other is, like, inconsolable, like, crying, like, paranoid, like, scared of everybody, like, freaking out, like, full-on meltdown. And then the last one is, like, the worst, because, like, it's when, like, literally, like, I dissociate so badly that, like, I, like, kind of, like, okay, I know a lot of times in, like, survival situations or, like, traumatic situations, like, sometimes, like, the body will, like, to survive, like, it'll dissociate mentally and then, like, physically, like, your body goes on, like, autopilot in survival mode. Well, I feel like because of all the trauma and the depression and anxiety and PTSD that I have, like, my survival mode is now suicide or self-harm mode. So when I get really, really badly triggered, and go into this suicide, self-harm, survival mode, like, it's, like, I'm dissociating, so, like, I'm not aware and I'm not, like, in control of my own body, but, like, my body is, like, taking into its own hands, like, self-harming, or it's doing almost suicidal things, or, like, preparing for suicidal things. So, like, I'm like, I get freaked out, you know, like, it's not okay, because, like, you're literally, like, dissociating, so, like, you're not aware, but then, like, when you come to for, like, a few minutes or a few seconds even, like, you get glimpses of, like, horrifying images of, like, you self-harming or almost self-harming or almost committing suicide, and you're just like, holy shit, this is scary. And that's, like, the worst of the worst of the worst thing that can happen whenever I get triggered. So, yeah, and I didn't even realize that I had all these, like, different levels of, like, being triggered and, like, what exactly triggered me and, like, yada yada yada, but I discovered real quickly when I went to the hospital, because yeah, because, like, you just it's bad. Basically, I went into worst case scenario suicidal / self-harming mode, and, like, could not function at all. Also, I was, like, hallucinating high key, which I don't think I've ever talked about it before, but, like, I regularly hallucinate. Like, it's a thing that I do, and I've never really talked about it because, like, it's kind of just, like, normal for me. And normally the hallucinations aren't bad. Like, I don't really remember a lot of them, to be honest. Sometimes, like, a lot of the ones that I had as a kid were, like, friends, like, imaginary friends and stuff to keep me company. And a lot of hallucinations were kind of, like, feelings. Like, if I needed to feel comforted, like, I would close my eyes and, like, imagine being comforted, and that was, like, a form of hallucination. Because it wasn't just, like, oh, like, I can imagine feeling comforted. It wasn't, like, just that. It was, like, literally, like, I felt, like, physical, like, comfort. Like, I literally, like, felt somebody next to me cuddling me or comforting me, or sometimes, like, I would literally imagine, like, a dog or something, like, warm and cuddly, like, cuddling me to comfort me. Like, it was, like, insane, because, like, it felt real, but I knew it wasn't, and, like, it, like, I don't know. Like, a lot of my hallucinations, like, especially the good ones, are kind of, like, cartoonish. Well, not cartoonish, but they're kind of. They're, like, if they're people, they're definitely cartoonish, and they're, like, exaggerated, and, like, they're not, like, you can tell they're not real. But, like, the feelings used to trip me out, like, so badly, because they felt real, and, like, it would freak me the fuck out. But, like, the visual, like, very clearly, they're not, like, actual real things, because, like, the good ones are all kind of cartoonish, and then, the bad ones are very, like, very clearly, like, not human, and, like, they're very clearly, like, sometimes I feel like I watch a really scary movie, like, I'll hallucinate, like, movie characters or whatever, but usually, like, the bad ones are, like, shadow creatures, and, like, they're really fucking creepy. And there's, like, 3 types, and I named them all Fred because they all kind of look the same. Although the 3rd Fred isn't that bad, but, like, the first 2 Freds, they is low-key really fucking scary. So, yeah. And my hallucinations, like, don't tell me to hurt myself. Like, I literally, like, don't, it, like, I'm not addicted to self-harm, but, like, it is a coping mechanism, a very unhealthy coping mechanism, but it is a coping mechanism that I will use in desperate times, okay? Like, I'm just saying. Like, and I never, like, self-harm, like, extremely. Like, I don't, like, cut myself. But, like, I will, like, scratch, or, like, I'll pick at, like, wounds that I already have, like, pre-existing wounds, or, like, I'll, like, rip, like, I'll bite my finger cuticles and, like, create, like, openings, and then I'll tear at those openings, like, on my fingertips, and, like I said, like, I'll scratch, or, like, if it gets really bad and, like, I'm literally, like, I can't do any of those things, like, I'll literally just, like, bang my head, or, like, an arm, or, like, bruise myself in some way. Like, I just, like, need something to, like, ground me. No. Is it a healthy mechanism? No. And I'm, like, high-key, like, very, like, grateful that I never cut or did anything of that sort, because like if I did, like probably would have been addicted and like would have been so much harder to start and progress in recovery. But thankfully was smart enough not to cut or do drugs or burn myself or whatever versions of self-harm you want to like talk about. But like still I do have like strong self-harm urges, and they do like become very apparent when I'm like in an anxious situation or like am highly triggered, you know. Yeah. But anyways, the night before I went to the hospital, like I was like extremely triggered because one of my mom's fucked up family members like texted me and said, "You have no rights, you're a minor." And like that was like a huge trigger for me, because a lot of people that would like hurt me would say that, like, you can't do anything, like you're just a kid, like what are you gonna do, like nobody's gonna believe you, you're just a kid, like good luck getting fucking people to believe you, like I'm a full grown ass adult and I'm a guy, or like I'm a full grown ass adult, or I'm like your mom, or I'm this, or I'm that, or I'm so much better at you in school because of this and that. And like they just like belittled me, and one of their favorite ways to belittle me was, you're just a minor, or you're just a kid, or you're alone. And when she said that, like I probably could have been able to like handle it better if I wasn't like so already caught up in all of these things, like my mom's death, the funeral, the family fuckery. Like my anxiety, depression, PTSD was like more present than ever. Like my dad and uncle not getting along, school, like insomnia, like I was like dealing with it all, man. Like I was not doing great, but I was like surviving, you know. And then that happened, and I just like couldn't, like my body was just like overload. Like you cannot handle this. And like I just started like severely hallucinating, but like it was like the bad hallucinations. So they got really like intense, and like I was so caught up in like communicating with my hallucinations, and like being triggered and like remembering like past traumas, that like I wasn't aware of my surroundings, and I started like self-harming, and I started like suicidal things, and like I was like freaking out because like I would come to and I would like throw the stuff on the ground, or I would like leave the area, but like it wasn't helping, because like I would go back to dissociating, and then like I would go back to the same situation, and I was like, oh my god, like I can't do this. And so I eventually like ended up like spending like 5 hours like not sleeping well with my uncle, because like I literally could not sleep alone, but I was like exhausted because like it was extremely stressful. Like it's always extremely stressful whenever you dissociate. Like I'm always like tired when I dissociate, even like casually, like even if it's just for a few minutes, like I'm always a little bit more tired. But like that was like pure exhaustion and like worry and like all of these things just like crashing down on me, and like I couldn't take it. So I was like, physically I was exhausted, but mentally like I was being tortured. Like I just couldn't take it. And so I tried like sleeping with my uncle because I couldn't sleep alone. But and for some reason, it's like having somebody that like you love or you trust or like you're comfortable around, like with you when you're like that traumatized or that like hurt or that emotional or whatever you want to call it, like really really helps like comfort and ground you, you know, like really does. Like literally, like the human body is so profound, like it's insane. But like anyways, so he really helped me like kind of sleep. But then I woke up the next morning and I was like still severely triggered and severely dissociating and severely hallucinating and all of these things. It was like exactly like I woke up 5 hours later and it was like the exact same situation as last night. So I freaked out and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this. Like I'm not going to do this for hours on end again. until I exhaust myself and like gradually get off of it, because this is not like healthy. Like, I can't do this. Like, and what if one of the times that I'm dissociating, I actually slip up and actually really hurt myself or actually kill myself? Like, I can't do this. And also on top of that, like, my uncle was dealing with vertigo, so like he couldn't like restrain me, and my grandma like has dementia, so like there was no way that she could do anything about it. And like at the time I still was very like on rocky waters with my dad, so like I just couldn't do it. So that's why I called Kaiser, and then Kaiser called 911, and then the cops came and they handcuffed me and they were like, "We're taking you to the ER." And then I proceeded to spend 12 hours at the ER, which was great. And then after those 12 hours at the ER, they drove me to a mental institute. And I spent 9 days there. And I'll continue the story of me in the institute in the next video.